Hi guys, welcome back to another video on Next.js 15. As you guys know that I make videos on modern latest technologies for absolute beginners. So in this particular video, I'm going to be using Appwrite for content management system. And that includes uploading images, building up collections, creating databases, different models, and adding up relationship between those models and building this small, simple blog application with the categories at the top and blogs within these. And if I click on any of these cards, it's going to take me to the detail page of this particular blog with this URL changed, and you can see that this is the ID being generated by Appwrite. Okay, I'm gonna click back, and here we can see the list of all the blogs. This app looks smaller, but it covers pretty much every topic and build a strong foundation for building a large blog application or any other app that you want to use Appwrite with for managing your content. So Appwrite provides a strong authentication system, database for building collections, adding up different models and adding relationship between those models, creating functions, adding up messages. For example, if you want to manage the content whenever any action or event gets occurred, then it can actually integrate with different providers. For example, you want to send messages to your users who have their phone numbers added, and we can upload images, videos, audios that we can link with any of the collection that we have in the database. So I'm going to show you how you can configure and integrate the Appwrite with your Next.js 15 application, and how to use state management system like context API for managing the data, how to use server actions for calling the APIs provided by Appwrite to fetch the data from the Appwrite and show it on our front end UI. And these are just random images that I have just added in Appwrite storage, and I've created a new bucket, and I have linked and add a reference of each image with the database collection of blogs that I've added over here. So let's get started by creating a new Next.js 15 application. So in VS Code, I've opened up an empty folder, and in the terminal of VS Code, I'm going to write a command npx create next app at rc. rc means that Next.js 15 is not stable at the moment when I'm creating this video. So if you are creating a new Next.js project when it is stable, the version 15, then you can simply write latest over here. But right now, if I write latest, it's going to create Next.js 14 project. But I want to create the beta 15 version, so that's why I need to write rc. Space dot means that I don't want to create a new folder for my project. It is going to use the same folder which I've already opened in VS Code. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to select the TypeScript, ESLint yes, Tailwind CSS yes, source directory no, app router yes. For this particular tutorial, I won't be using TurboPack, import aliens no. Meanwhile, my project is getting created. I just want to show you the recent videos which I have been creating, and on my channel you can see that all the recent videos are on Next.js. And if I go to my playlists and go to my Next.js playlist, there is a Next.js tutorial playlist as well, which contains less tutorials currently because it includes only Next.js 15 tutorials. But if I go to the Next.js 14 tutorials, it also includes the Next.js 15 and 14 version as well. And you can see the whole list that I've created a lot of videos, starting off with the unit testing, adding live chat feature, WhatsApp contact feature, hydration error fixes, multi-language support, all about routings and layouts in Next.js 15, caching, video calling application, authentication with multiple technologies, building full stack node applications using Clerk, Drizzle ORM, Neon database. And I have pretty much covered a lot of tutorials, project-based tutorials, concept-based tutorials for absolute beginners who want to learn Next.js and want to become a good Next.js developer, building full stack REST APIs as well only in Next.js, debugging, Docker, CI/CD integrations, and I have created this video as well, building blog application in Next.js 14 that was using a Strappy VS4 headless framework. But this tutorial is about Appwrite, so the UI is going to be a bit same. Other than this, if you watch my tutorial series, this playlist, you can become a good Next.js 14 developer because I've covered pretty much every topic. And from now on, I will only be focusing on project-based tutorials, because if we talk about the technologies, I have pretty much covered tens of technologies for building Next.js applications, for showing you different concepts and the projects as well. So to encourage me make more tutorials for you guys, I would request you guys to subscribe my channel and like my videos as well. And if you need any development services, you can contact me on LinkedIn. The link of my LinkedIn profile is on the description of this video. So Next.js 15 project is created, and let me clear the terminal out. First of all, let me run the project by writing the npm run dev command in the terminal. And let's go over here. It is still running the previous project. So let me refresh the page. So now this is the default UI that new Next.js 15 project provides, which I'm going to remove. So if I open up this app folder, it gets created by default in Next.js 15, and it has this predefined files. We cannot change the name of this file called page.tsx file, and this file automatically refers to the home route of the page. So localhost colon 3000 automatically trigger the first page.tsx file that exists within the app folder. If you want to learn all about routings and layouts in Next.js, there are a lot of topics. I have created a separate video only about routings and layouts in Next.js. You can check that out in my Next.js playlist, and that contains pretty much every topic about routings and layouts, and it is going to help you a lot if you are just learning Next.js. Okay, so here inside it, I'm simply going to remove everything that it has, and I'm going to add a new div, and I'm going to write home inside. And if I change it, you will see that it will contain this home. Let me zoom in, and it means that this is the content which is coming from this page.tsx file. First of all, let me set up the layout. So layout.tsx file actually used to manage the layout of our application. For example, we have multiple routes, and all the routes have the navbar or the sidebar, but we only want to change the body content of that page. So we put the header, the navbar or the sidebar within the layout file, and create a separate routing files for every content that we have over here within the center of the page, because layout.tsx file runs before every route. Okay, it runs with every route. So here, first of all, I will not be using these fonts, so I will just be removing these fonts, and rather than importing the local font, I will be using an awesome font called Poppins. Let me add the space from next/font/Google. Okay, and after that, I'm going to create a new variable, Poppins equals to Poppins, and here it is actually suggesting me few things. So I'm using Super Maven extension of VS Code, which is quite awesome. It helps me write the code by automatically suggesting it. So I'm going to hit tab to select whatever it is suggesting. So first of all, I'm going to keep this property. Sometimes it does not provide the accurate data. So we have to be careful about that. I will not be needing these two things, display or fallback. Instead, I will be adding the variable and font Poppins. Okay, so let's save it. And here in the body, I'm simply going to remove one of this thing, and I'm going to use this Poppins dot class name over here. So Poppins dot class name. If I save it, you will see that the font style is changed. This is looking quite cool. Okay, now I'll come back to this body, but let me add some container with some fixed margin on the left and right of the page. So within the body, I'm going to add another div. So this div is going to add some margins on both sides and move every content at the center of the page. So class name, and I'm going to write MX Auto. I'm using Tailwind CSS. This is what I chose. So max width large. Okay. And inside it, I'm going to cut and add this particular div. Okay. And around this children, I'm going to wrap it with another div, and let's add flex min height screen and flex column, because I'm adding up a layout for the header and the content. Header will include the categories list, and there is a blog cards that I showed you at the start of the video. So these will be aligned in the column form. At the top there will be categories, below that there will be the blog cards. Okay, and this particular div, the styling which I'm adding over here is going to be applied on all the routes that I have. Means all the route content will be at the center of the page, and this children is going to receive the content from every route that we are going to trigger over here, whether it's home route, whether it's the individual blog detail page route as well. Okay, so this styling is going to be common for all the routings that I will be having. So if you are a beginner, that's why I'm trying to explain each and everything which I'm writing over here. So let's come to this page.tsx file, and inside it, this is a div. Inside this div, I'm going to first of all render categories component, and then I'm going to render blogs component, which I yet need to create. So over here, I'm going to create a new folder, components, and inside these components, I'm going to add these particular components. So first of all is going to be the categories.tsx. The second one is going to be the blogs.tsx. Okay, so let's write the shortcut. So this contains the blogs. Okay, let's open this up, RAFCE. Let's write categories. All right, so let's close it, and let's bring these in over here from the components. This one is the category and this one is the blogs. So let's save it. Let's see over here. So over here you can see that we have the categories at the top and then the blogs over here. Let's zoom out. Okay, now on the smaller screens, when we are zoom in, it's going to remove all the margins from left and right. But if we are on the 100% zoom, which is fine on the desktop screens, it's going to add some kind of margins on left and right of the page. And this is what we want. This is what we have added in our layout file over here. All right. And because of this flex and flex column, these are on top and bottom of each other. Okay, in the form of column. All right, I'll come back to these files when I have the content and I have these particular components as well. Before moving further, I want to help you out with setting up with Appwrite. So first of all, when you open up Appwrite, you can go through what it provides, but you need to sign up with your email ID in the Appwrite. After you sign up, you have to create an organization. I've already created an organization with this name, Learning Projects, but you can create your organizations by clicking on New Organization. So in the one organization, you can create multiple projects. All right. So I'm already having these two projects, so I can create a new project. So let's add next 14 blogs Appwrite. This is the name I've given to it. Let's click on next. So I'm using the free version of Appwrite. That's why I cannot select any other region right now. It is going to automatically select the first one. So I can click on create. It is good for learning purposes. Okay. So after that, this project is created, and first of all we need to copy this particular ID. This is the project ID. So over here I'm going to create an env file .env, and here I'm going to create few variables. First of all, I'm going to add next public underscore endpoint equals to, and this is going to contain a predefined string. All right, you cannot change it's a string. If you can check the docs, current version of Appwrite is v1, so that's why I've written v1. Later on it might be having v2, v3. You can keep on updating yourself with the documentation of Appwrite. Okay, after that we can have a project underscore ID. Okay, and this is something which we can copy from here, and let's paste it over here. All right, so I've pasted it over here. Now, what I need to do is I can click on, since we are building the web application, we can actually use Appwrite with the mobile apps, Apple or React Native as well. Let's click on web from here. Okay, so over here, we can name our app, the web app within the project that we have created. So this is going to be the blogs app. This is the name which I have given. Host name, for now you can give the local host, but later on if you want to deploy it on any of your servers, you can add those hosts as well over here. All right, so let's click on next. And first of all, we need to install this Appwrite. So in the terminal, I'm going to paste this command, npm install Appwrite. All right, I'll come back to this. Let's ignore it for now. So let's click on next. Let's ignore it for now. I'll come back to this and I'll be populating these kinds of details manually by myself. Let's click on next. Let's go to the dashboard. All right, so our project is created, our web app within this project have been created, and this is the project ID which we have already copied over here, which we are going to be using. All right, so now let's click on the database and I can create a new database. So blogs DB, you can name anything you want. I like to write underscore within these. I don't want to add my personal unique ID. Instead, I want it to create ID itself for this particular database. So let's click on create. All right, so database is created. This is the ID of the database within the this particular app name, the project which we have created. So for database ID, I can create database underscore ID equals to this. So I have pasted my database ID over here. All right, so first of all, I'm going to configure Appwrite with my Next.js 15 project. So let's do that. Inside my project structure, I'm going to create a new folder lib. And inside this lib folder, I'm going to create a new file. And this is going to be the appwrite.config.ts. All right, so let's create that. And inside it, I'm going to be configuring Appwrite to be used in my project. So let's write import client, and we need database, and this is going to be coming from Appwrite. Okay, not database, it is going to be the databases. Okay, and after that, I'm going to create an instance of this new client. Okay, and this is going to be the dot set endpoint, and this is going to take the next public endpoint, then dot, then we need to write the set project, and this is going to take the project ID as well. So first of all, I will be writing process.env dot, let's open up this env, and I'm going to copy next public endpoint. So let's copy it, let's paste it over here. And it might be undefined, so I want to make sure that it is never going to be undefined by just writing this particular character. Okay, let's copy this process.env and let's copy this project ID from here and let's paste it, and let's add this particular character so there is no error of undefined. Okay, so now I'm going to write const databases, new database client databases, and then let's export. I only need databases to query all the data that I will be having in Appwrite. So for this particular file, that's pretty much it. I will also be talking about server actions, and within the server actions, I will be using these databases to fetch the data from the Appwrite. So for now, let's quickly add the folder structure for the server actions, new file. Let's add the server actions for blogs. Blog.actions.ts, and let's add another file, and this is going to be the category.actions.ts. I will not be writing anything inside it as of now. Okay, so let's close these couple of files. All right, so this is pretty much the configuration that we need over here. Let's go over here in the Appwrite. So within this particular database which I've created that has a name blogs DB, first of all, I can go to the settings. Actually, let's go to the collections, and inside it, let's create a new collection. So this is going to be the blogs collection. Let's create that. And inside this collection, let's go to the settings and let's give the permission for this collection by clicking on any. So we have the permission for all the things for create, read, update and delete. So let's click on update. All right. And we don't have any usage. We can also check what we have here: indexes, attributes, documents. Currently we don't have any data. First of all, we need to create the attributes for this particular blog. For example, for the blog, we might have the image URL, we might have the title, date created at, we might have the description for the blog. But first of all, let's go back and let's create another collection. And this is going to be the categories collection. So categories collection. So let's click on create. And again, for this particular thing, I'm going to click on settings. Let's start off with the small capital, small letter, just like the blogs, update the name and also update the permission for this collection as well. Click on any, create, read, update, delete, click on update. All right, so that we can query the data from it. Okay, so for the attributes, we can click on the create attribute and I can click on the string and let's give one thing to it, which is going to be the title. For the title of the category, let's give the size of 100 and this is going to be required. All right, so for the title, let's click on create. So this is the first attribute that we have created over here. All right. Next thing, I don't think we need any other attribute for this particular category. I will not be creating any attribute for blog right now because I will only be accessing the categories to see if all the configuration that we have are actually working or not. Okay. So for this particular attribute, I'm going to click on the document and I can create it. So here we only have the title. So let's add the loops. Okay, let's go over here. Let's click on create. So this is the first document that is created. Okay, and then let's create another document within the same collection. So let's add data structure. This is the categories which I'm creating. So these are the two documents that we have created for this particular categories and we have already set the permission for this particular collection. Okay, so if I go back, we have this particular database ID. It has this EF3 ending it with and we have already added it over here, but we have to add the categories collection ID and the blogs collection ID over here as well. So I'm going to write categories collection ID equals to this is the categories. Let's copy its ID. Let's paste it over here. Let's go and add the collection ID for the blogs as well so that we don't forget it later on. Okay, so let's click on equals to and let's go back. Let's click on blogs. Let's copy the blogs collection ID over here. So let's paste it over here. All right. So we have configured it, the categories with the two documents inside it. So let's try to fetch that in our UI. So we have this server action. Server actions means the code that we will write over here is going to run on the server side. Means we can write the node as well over here. So I'm going to import this databases within this server action, the categories action.ts file, and I'm going to fetch the categories over here. All right. So first of all, to make it run on the server side, I need to write use server at the top. And then I'm also going to write the this thing, the databases from the Appwrite config file. Okay. Let's export a function, get categories. This is going to be an async function and my extension supermemon is suggesting few things. Let's accept it. So first of all, it is creating this thing. We don't need that. First of all, let's try to wrap it within the try catch block. so that if there is any unknown error, we can catch it. So catch error and then the console log error. All right. So we have these databases. List document require few properties that I need to add, and it is going to return me the documents. So I'm going to write the categories over here. And before actually returning these documents, I'm going to let's update it with, I'm going to log these categories over here. All right, so let's log the categories. So inside these documents, we need to add the process dot env dot database id. Let's add this character so that it doesn't throw any undefined errors. So, and next thing, we need to provide the collection ID, and the collection ID we need to fetch the categories. So we need to provide this categories collection ID over here. So env dot categories collection ID. All right. So now I'm going to call this particular function from or within this app.tsx file. And I'm going to pass the fetched categories over here within this component. So here, since this is a server component, I've not written use client at the top of this component. So we can write some asynchronous functions as well. So over here, I'm going to write async function, and this is going to be the get categories. So this is going to take get categories from that particular server action that I've just created. Let me see. Yeah, this one. So let's go over here. Actually, the name of this function is same, so I can write the fetch categories over here. Now it should be able to find that from that server actions. Yes, over here. So get category is going to return us this categories. In fact, I can simply write return over here. I don't need to write it in 2 lines. Okay. And within this home component, I'm going to make it async. And here I can write the categories equals to await fetch categories. And again, over here, I can simply log that out. All right. So let me run it. npm run dev. And this is going to run my project, and I will see in the terminal over here whether we see these categories that we have created in Appwrite or not. So it is ready. Let's go over here. Let's refresh the page. So it is actually refreshing. It must be compiling. Yes, it is compiled. All right. So we are looking at these 2 documents over here. You can see it has this title loops. We have this title data structure. So we are successfully fetching the data of categories that we created in Appwrite using server actions, and we can access the ID of it from here. It is giving us some extra permissions, details, which is currently empty, which we can set over here. What it was the database ID, what was the collection ID, created at, updated at, all these information that we have over here. That's great. Now we can actually show the categories by passing these categories to this particular component. So let's do that. So first of all, let me close this file which are not relevant. So here I'm going to just remove this console log because we have already tested this out. I'm going to remove console log over here. One more thing I want to add over here. This is a part of Next.js. Since we are fetching the data from the DB, so sometimes we might need to refresh the page that the data is fetched, but the data is not quickly visible on the UI. For that reason, we have to revalidate the page. It doesn't refresh the page. It just makes sure that the content which is being fetched is revalidated and shown on the UI. So I'm just going to add this revalidate, and the particular route which we want to revalidate that is responsible for showing the data should be added over here. It is showing that this is going to be the home route, the root one. Okay, let's make a meaningful error. Fetching categories failed. All right, let's save it. For this particular file, I don't think we need to do anything, so let's close it. And in here, we have already fetched the categories. Now we need to pass these categories to this particular component. So I'm going to write categories equals to categories dot documents. Documents, because if we see the terminal, all the things, all the documents are added within this documents array. Okay, so I'm not passing the total to, I'm just passing the documents directly in my categories component. It's giving error. Yeah, so we don't have this categories property over here within the categories. All right, so in this particular component, I'm going to add the categories. For now, let's try to give the type any. I'll come back to this to add some relevant types. So any means it can be any type, array, object, string. Now let's save it. Let's go over here. So this is where we are passing in, and from here we can actually map this out. We can iterate using a map function and show the relevant data. First of all, we want to show all the categories in the row form. So I'm going to write the flex. I'm going to give it a full width. I'm going to give it the items start, and within each category I'm going to add a gap equals to 4, and padding on top and bottom is going to be 8. Okay, let's save it and let's see how it's looking. And yes, you can see that there is a 8 padding on top and bottom of categories. So for this particular category, I'm going to map it through categories dot map, and let's give it category of type any for now. Let's go over here, let's give the div key, and then I can add the category dot ID because all the fixed properties are starting off with the dollar. Okay, so this is the ID which I have added. I don't need to pass any class name to it. So within this div, we can render a new component. So I'm going to create a category that is responsible for showing a single category button. So I can pass the cat within it category. Okay, and this is the component which I yet need to create. Currently it's going to throw an error because this particular component does not exist. So I can write the category dot tsx. So inside this particular category, we can actually style it a bit to show some kind of name, and selected category should have a background color and the border to something like that. All right, so RAFCE, and it's showing the category. So it's going to receive the cat like this. All right, so let's add the type any to it. And after that, what I can do is, in order to actually detect that which category is currently selected, I'm going to be using the context API because this is a different component. Categories is a different component, page is different component, and all those, both of these categories and blocks components are parallel to each other, not parent-child relation. So to actually have some information within the block that which category is selected, I will be using the context API. Okay, I'll come back to this. Let's add a comment. It is a good practice. Implement context API for selected category. Okay, now let's come back to this particular div, and inside this div I can write the cat dot title dot to uppercase. All right, so let's see what we have here. We can refresh the page. Actually, let's go over here. We need to import this category from this category component. All right, so it's not currently showing. Let's refresh the page. Let's go over here in the page and let's try to log these out categories, whether we are actually fetching the categories. Yes, we are fetching the categories and we are passing the categories dot documents, which is correct. Okay, we are actually iterating through it. We are showing this title. So here we have this category. Okay, all right. So one mistake that I often do, I write the curly braces over here. Instead, I need to write the parentheses over here. All right. Now it's going to show the categories. Actually, let's close it. All right, so let's save it. And now it should show the both of these categories, and you can see that loops and data structure are showing over here, which is quite awesome. Now we need to actually style it a bit over here. So inside this particular div, I actually need to have an on click over here so that we can select the category. For now, I'm simply going to not to add anything. All right, so after that we have this class name, and the class name is going to have a lot of stuff. In the terminal you can see that it's throwing this error. So wherever we have the user interaction like click event or any use state, use effect, hooks that we need to use, we need to convert that particular component into a client component by writing use client at the top. So by default all the components are rendered from server side in Next.js. If we want to render it from the client side, we need to write this string at the top. If I save it, you will see that there won't be any error now in the terminal. Okay, so now before actually creating the context API for managing the states of selected category, let me write some default styling over here. So let me convert it into like this. And first of all, I'm going to make it shrink 0. And then I'm going to have this cursor pointer as well. Yes, it is going to be on the hover. Okay. After that, we need to make it rounded. The border of it is going to be rounded. Let's add the padding Y on the top and bottom of 1.5. If we hover over it, it's going to show in the form of pixels. Over here, you can see that there is a 6 pixels padding on the top and the bottom. All right, so on the left and right, I'm going to have the 5. This is, I think, going to be 12 pixels. Then text is going to be the base. Font is going to be the medium. And text is going to be the white. So if I save it, you will see that it has this quite a cool styling. There is no border visible currently because I want to add the border based upon the selected category. Okay, the different color of borders on the selected category. So before moving further, let's go over here and create a new folder, and this is going to be called context. And inside this context folder, I'm going to create a new file, and this is going to be the category context. We can use the Redux toolkit, the stand, but in this particular video, I'm going to use this category context using the use context hook. And since this is going to be using the hooks, I need to convert it into a client side component. So let's import create context and use a state from the top. So it is suggesting me few things, super Maven. So let me first review it, then I'm going to select it. First of all, it is actually creating category context, which is correct. Then it is exporting category provider with the children selected. So let's select it. Let's change it to the category ID. Let's change it to the set category ID. Use state is going to be an empty string. Yes, so now we need to have a function that is going to change the category, and that is going to receive the cat ID. I'm just going to make it minimal like this. All right, and using this provider in the value, I'm going to pass the category ID, and I'm going to change pass this particular function, so anybody from outside can actually call this particular function to update the category. And this is something we are going to be calling whenever we click on any specific category, and this is where we can detect that which category is particularly selected at the moment. All right, so this is something which I'm already done. Let's save it. Okay, let's come over here in the category, and now I'm going to actually remove this component which I wrote to do. Let's add category ID, and then the change category from use context. Use context, I would like to import it at the top. Use context imported. I need to fetch the category context as well. Is it something? What is the name? So this is the category context. All right, so let's import that manually if it's not finding that. So category context, it is finding. All right, Now from here we can actually call that particular function. So change category, it is going to pass category ID. All right. So now inside it, I'm going to detect that if which category is selected. So for that, I'm going to write dollar sign, and here I can write cat dot dollar ID equals to category ID. If that is true, then I'm going to have a different styling. Otherwise, I'm going to have a different styling. If this is particular a cat selected category, then I'm going to change the background to 700. Then I'm going to change the border to 2, and then border gray is going to be 50. All right. Let's see if it works. Okay, so it's throwing this error. Actually, to make the context, all the data available to the whole application or within the specific layout, we need to wrap this particular category provider around this particular layout. Okay, so I can actually wrap it around this div. So all the routes, all the child routes, components should have access to the data. So I'm going to write category provider coming from the context category context. All right, so let's cut it from here. Let's paste it over here. All right, so I've pasted it over here. Now it should be available right here. All right, so let's refresh. So currently you can see that there is no error. So if I click on it, you will see that it is showing this particular background color border, and it is looking cool. All right. But if I refresh this page, I want the first one to be automatically selected. Means I want the first ID of the first category to be passed to this context, and this should have this particular ID rather than an empty string. But first of all, let's try to update the border for a particular category which is not selected. So for the not selected, I'm going to add the border 2, and for not selected, I'm going to add border gray 700. So let's refresh, and now these are the non-selected categories. If I click on it, you can see that I'm able to select these categories, and it's updating the state variable. Let's refresh. Nothing is selected. I want to select the first one. So for that, what I can do is I can go to the categories, and here I can use the use effect. Use effect, and here what I can do is actually I've already imported it. Whenever we use the state or the user interaction, we can use the use client at the top. Okay. So rather than adding the parentheses, I need to add an empty brackets. All right. And now I can actually add that context. So change category, which is coming from that use context. So let's import use context from React, category context from the context, and now I can use it, and I can pass it categories, first categories ID to it. Okay, so let's go over there, and now if I refresh, you will see that the first one is automatically going to selected, which is quite awesome. And I can click on the second one to change the selection. So our functionality of selecting the categories and fetching it from the Appwrite database is done. Now we need to work on the blogs component. So let me close the completed files. Category is done. Category context. We have this blogs. I'll come back to this. We have this page where we need to fetch the blogs. So first of all, I'm going to go in the Appwrite. We have this collection. We have already added this ID in our env, so we don't need to copy this again. And now we actually need to process this. We have to add the attributes for it. So let's create the attributes. First one is going to be the title. So title can be 1000 characters, and I'm going to make it required. Let's create that. Next one is going to be the description. So description, let's give it 10,000. Okay, let's not make it required. Let's create. And next I'm going to add an image URL. This can be a link. So I'm going to have this URL. So let's add the attribute key. So I can add image URL and default value. I won't be adding any default value. It is not required. It is not array. So let's click on create. So this has been created. Next thing is that each blog belongs to a particular category. So I want to have a relationship between these categories. The first one is the loops, which is ending with 83, and then there is a data structure. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's go to the attributes. Let's click on that. And at the bottom, we have this relationship. Okay, one-way relationship or two-way relationship, but now I'm going to select it from here. So I want to make it with the categories. So click on the categories. What would be the attribute key? So attribute key, I can give it the category ID. You can name anything to it. And what would it be like? So many to one. So many blogs can belong to one category. So I can click on many to one. Okay, so let's click on the create. All right. There is another thing. It is throwing some error on deleting it. We need to have set null. All right. Make sure you don't do any kind of mistake, otherwise it will not work. So let's click on create. Now all of the attributes that was needed are actually created. Now I'm going to create few documents just for testing. So I'm going to click on the documents. Make sure all the attributes are added. What is it uploading? It's uploading some kind of file. Okay, let's close it. So let's create some document here. Actually, before actually creating a document, we have to add an image URL. I'm going to show you how we can create a storage bucket. So click on the storage, click on create bucket, and I'm going to write blogs images. You can name anything to it. This is going to be the name of this bucket. All right, it has an ID. We can have an ID over here in our env file if we want to query something to it, but for this particular application we don't need to query anything. And one more thing, you might be confused that why we are uploading and creating the documents in the collections directly from the database. Why not from the admin panel? Obviously you can create a UI and you can build up a form where user can add the data and perform some queries. And I don't want to spoon feed you guys. You can go to the documentation of Appwrite, just like I have actually added this thing, category. We have the list document, we have update document, we have create document, all these pre-built functions that we can use to pass the data, to delete the data, to update the data, and it's going to do that. So in the documentations, you can go to all the REST APIs, all the storage and all the databases APIs. Click on the databases. And then there is a queries, and this is going to show you all the different queries that you can perform to create the data, to update the data, to delete the data. Okay, I want you guys to actually understand how to use documentation to perform some operations. Okay, so now we have this particular bucket already created, and inside it we have these files. Let's upload the files over here. So click on create file, and here we can actually drag and drop a file here to upload. Max file size should be 50 MB. Okay, so let's click on create. Let's click on files. So let's do few things. So I'm going to upload this. So it's getting upload loop2.png. Let's click on next. Let's click on create. So it should be added over here. Let's see if we can actually set up the permissions. Maybe we need to set up the permissions by going to any read, update, delete, update. All right. So let's click on files. So this is a particular, if I click on it, you will see that it has this particular file URL, and by copying from here we can actually go back to our database while creating a blog, and we can add this URL. All right, it just works just like the S3 bucket of AWS Amazon. Before that, let's create few more files. So let's click on that, and let's create this one for the loop 1. Next, continue. So this one should be added over here, loop 1, loop 2. Let's create one for the data structure. DS, open, and this is getting uploaded. Next, click on create. So this has been created. Let's duplicate it so we can copy the file names and put it back in our blog. So let's click on the database, and now I can actually click on this one, click on the blogs, click on the documents, create the document, and here let's click on, let's do for loop. Okay, for loop is used quite a lot for iterating the data. Okay, and now for the image URL, let's click on loop 1, let's copy this URL and let's paste it over here. And for the category ID, I think the first one is for the loops, so let's select one and let's click on next, let's click on create. Okay, so this one is created. Now let's click another one, and here I can write do while loop. This one is for the title of do while loop. Do while loop is used when we want to actually iterate first time without meeting condition. Okay, let's go back and let's copy it. Let's copy this URL, let's paste it over here. Let's select the first one for the loops and let's click on create. Okay, let's add one for the data structures. So I'm going to add a stack. Okay, so stack is used to works like you can say last in first out. Yeah, so LIFO manner. Okay, so let's add the image URL. Let's click on DS, copy and paste it like this. Let's select the second one because this belongs to the category of data structures. All right, let me verify the IDs. The first one is 330 is for the data structure ID. Yes, 30 is for data structures. Now we need to perform some query to fetch the data from the API. We have already uploaded the images. We have already set up the data for the blogs and categories and added up the relationship between these. Okay, you can see we can actually select the category ID from here. All right, so now rather than actually having it, I'm going to open up the blogs.actions and I'm going to fetch all the blogs from here. So I'm going to copy everything from here. So we have some main structure and paste it over here. So rather than get categories, I'm going to add get blogs. Okay, and we can pass the category ID as well if we want to fetch blogs of a specific category, but I'm going to filter out from front end. Okay, I'm going to fetch all the blogs and then after that I'm going to filter that out on the front end. So here we have we can change the variable name blogs, and then we have the databases. We can list the documents, database ID. Rather than categories, we can have the blogs, and this is already added in our env file, this one. Okay, so after that we can actually revalidate it, but we don't need to do that because we are already doing it for the categories. Both are on the same page, on the root page. So this is going to return the blogs failed. Let's remove this revalidate. Okay, and before actually moving away from this particular file, I'm going to add another function. This is going to return me a single blog. I'm writing it before ahead because while clicking on the blog card, I need to navigate to a particular route where I want to fetch one single blog based upon the ID in the URL. Okay, so from that particular route, I'm going to call this function to fetch a single blog. So rather than list document, I can add get document. Okay, and get document require this database ID, blog ID, and also for a single document I need to pass an ID as well. So ID is going to be passed from front end, and the third param is going to be the ID. Okay, and this is going to return fetching a blog failed. All right, so I don't need to come back to this particular file. That's why I've written both the functions. So let's close it, and let's come over here, let's copy it, let's paste it, fetch blogs and get blogs from that action. And also I can actually write blogs, fetch blogs. All right, actually I can directly call these functions over here. Okay, the reason I've created a separate function because we might want to filter out and might want to run some utility functions in this particular function. Okay, otherwise in this particular phase there is no need of this function, but to separate out initially to have a strong foundation of our structure in the code is a good practice. Okay, so now let's try to log the blogs and let's see if we are able to fetch the blogs or not. All right, so we are able to fetch all the 3 blogs that we added. First one is the for loop. It has this description and it has this image URL that we have added. This is quite awesome. And we have this ID which we can use, and it has this category ID as well, which it belongs to. Okay, then we have a do while loop. So we have the data. Now let's pass this out to this. So blogs.documents. Currently the blogs does not support this, so I'm simply going to remove it first of all. And for this particular file we don't need to do anything, so I'm just going to close this file so that our VS Code is clean. And now in this blog, first of all, we don't need to import React. I'm going to convert it into the client because I will be I think I need to have one hook. This is going to be the use context hook in this particular file. So now let's add the blogs. Let's add blogs any for now. And let's add the category ID from use context. So let's do that. Let's import the category context as well. We have got the category ID, the selected category. Now, while the blogs are fetched from the parent component and passed to this blogs, before actually showing it in the UI, I'm going to filter this out. So filtered blogs equals to, and the super maven extension is suggesting me few things. So let's select it. Okay, but I don't think it's going to work because it doesn't know the actual structure we have in the data that is being fetched from the Appwrite database. Okay, so blogs.filter blog any, and then the blog.category ID. You know that we have, this is an object, so this is not a direct string. So this is one mistake. So category ID is the name of the reference variable over here, and inside this object each category have its own ID, you know guys. Okay, so ID. Now this ID is being matched with the selected category ID which is being selected. Now it is going to show the filtered blog now. Okay, and I'm able to detect the filter blog because of this use context variable which I'm adding over here. So for this particular blog, I'm going to add a class name. First of all, this is going to show a grid, and I'm simply going to paste few stuff over here. I don't want to spend a lot of time in designing. So currently you can see that I'm just showing a particular number of blogs cards based upon the screen size. On the smaller screen will be only one card in one row. On the medium screen there will be 2 cards on one row. On large screen there will be 3 cards, and so on. Okay, and there will be gap 4 between each card. So within this div, I'm going to filter out the blogs. So filtered blogs.map, and then I'm going to have this blog over here. I need to make sure I don't add the curly braces. Instead I need to add the parentheses. Okay, so blog.id should be added here. This is the ID, yes. Okay, and let's close this div. So within this I'm going to add a blog card component, and I'm going to pass the blog into it just like the category. Okay, so for now we are actually done, and it should throw some kind of error. Yes, blog card is not defined. Let's create a new component. So blog card.tsx. So in this particular component, I'm simply going to design it a bit, and I'm going to show some kind of data. So first of all, I need to import image. Then I would be needing a link. And then, yeah, it is suggesting me few things. This is the reason. So blog card any. Let's see, let's select everything we have here. Okay, then the title, then the description. All right, so let me verify what Super Maven have suggested me. So first of all, we have this link. I'm not going to actually use the link directly. Instead, I'm going to add a div. This is going to have a border around it. Okay, so this div. So let's wrap everything over here. And then while clicking on each of the card, it's going to take me to the blog and the blog.id, which this is the route which I yet need to create. Okay, but let's keep it over here. And after that, I'm going to have one div only. There are 3 divs that Super Maven created, but I don't need all these divs actually. Okay, so I'm going to actually paste the TSX which I have within this link. All right, I want to make it simple. So we have this rounded border. Let's see. Let's refresh it. And currently it is showing block card is not because I have yet to import it. So actually I'm not exporting it from here. So export default block card. And now I should be able to fetch this up. All right, so I'm able to fetch this. Now it is showing this error. The reason is that Next.js does not automatically support all the URLs because of the security reasons. So we need to add this particular host name within our next configuration file, because that this is what we want to add. And this host name should be excluding the HTTP. So let's go over here. Let's add next config. So inside the next config, I can add the images, and then I can have the domains, and rather than Cloudinary, I can actually paste the Appwrite one. So let's close this file. Now it should be able to show all the cards of that blog. So let me refresh this page. All right, guys. So it is showing all the cards for this particular category, loops. Okay. And if I click on data structure, it's going to take me to the data structure category. It's going to update these cards, and our functionality is working pretty cool. We have these cards, we have this title and this description, and this one. One last thing that we need to do is whenever we click on any of these cards, I want to take it to its detail page where we can see the detailed description and also the created at the date as well, or any other details that we want to add in the detail page. All right, so let's create a new route. But before that, let's click on one of the card. And this is the route format that we need to create, /blog and / the ID of that particular blog. So it means that it can have any value. So we need to create a dynamic route. So in the app folder, we need to create a folder blog, and the name of the folder automatically becomes the route. Okay, it means that its name is blog, so the route is going to be /blog. But after that, we need to have a blog ID. So inside this, we need to have some kind of folder that takes the dynamic value rather than the exact string of the folder name. Okay, so we need to wrap a particular string within the square brackets, and this is going to take the dynamic value, and the name within the square brackets is helping us to actually fetch the value of it from the URL, okay, the dynamic value. So inside the ID, I need to create a page.tsx file. We cannot change the name of this file, just like the home route. We need to have the page.tsx file. If the page.tsx file does not exist within any folder, then it is not going to become a route. Okay, so it is required. So page.tsx. So first of all, inside it, we need to have an image from next image. and then we will be needing a link from next link, uh, and then we will be needing the get blog from that action which I've already created. That is actually taking the ID of a particular blog and returning the data which I just created. Let me quickly show you. So this one I created, receiving an ID, fetching a particular blog data with this ID. Okay, so let's close it. Now let's add array fce, and we don't need to import React, and then we have this page. So let me change the name of it, blog page. All right, so now within this, in order to fetch the value, let me first of all blog page. Now if I refresh it, you will see that it's showing the blog page, and there is no 404 and not found error now because this route exists. So it can take any value, we can write anything over here, still it's going to show this one. So this is the benefit of creating a route with these square brackets. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to fetch the value from the URL, the dynamic value. So we can use the name of this folder, which is the ID currently. So Next.js automatically provides the params, and then params any, and then what we can do is we can actually first of all log this params.id, ID reference to the name of that dynamic folder. Now it is going to show the ID in the terminal. You can see that it is showing this thing, and this is being logged from here. It means that we are successfully able to fetch the value from the URL. So now we can pass this ID to get the blogs. And since this is a server component, we can actually we can convert it into the async, and we can fetch a particular blog data. So blog, let's give it any type for now. Let's give it a weight, get blog param ID. All right, const spelling. Now this is going to give us the blog data. Let me see if it gives the success blogs data. Currently it is showing this one, fetching a blog failed, document with the requested ID could not be found. Obviously we are passing the invalid ID over here. All right, that's why it is going inside the exception. Now let's go back. And now these are the correct IDs. If I click on do while loop, all right, so here we are actually navigated to this. It is showing this ID and it's showing this blog page, and it should actually fetch a particular blog data within this blog. Let me add one string so that we know what is the value in the terminal. So it is showing this undefined. Let me rerun the project. In fact, let's reload the window. Sometimes it causes some errors. So npm run dev. All right, so now it is ready. Let's go over here. Let's refresh the page. And while refreshing the page, I need to see the terminal. So user aborted, compiled. All right, so now we have this data coming in. So actually the reason you can see that this is a string, and after that there is an object. It contains the title, description, image URL. We have the category ID. What we need next, we need created at. We can obviously modify it, and we can have some other properties as well. Okay, so now I don't want to waste your time. I hope that you guys know how to design stuff. I'm going to copy paste the UI for this particular page directly from my notes. Okay, so here let's paste it, and now it has this main div with the backlink. It's going to take me to the home page directly. At the top, I'm just showing the image with this width height, and then I'm showing the title, description, and I'm just optimizing and modifying the format of this date with this toLocale string with this predefined string. All right, so let's save it. Now, all right, so we are actually successfully fetching the data from the DB. The reason I'm fetching it on this particular page and not fetching it from previous page and passing it to this, the reason is that this is not a child component. This is a route, and this route means that if we directly copy this URL and share it with someone, he will not go back to the home page and click on a particular blog card. Instead, he will directly open this URL. So fetching the data in the previous route will not benefit us and while directly opening this particular route. So if someone open this route directly, we need to fetch the data directly in this particular page. That's why I've added it over here. All right, I can go back. Let's click on back, and then I can click on for loop. It's going to show the for loop. Let's click on the data structure, click on this card. It's going to show the details of this particular blog card. All right, so again, you can go to the docs and you can build up the form, and you can add a lot more features using this awesome Appwrite database. It provides the database, it provides messaging, storage, and these are the major features that every app should have. And this is something that this Appwrite is quite cool in. Okay, so make sure you subscribe my channel and like my video, and if you need any development services, do contact me on LinkedIn. And you can use this particular project for building large applications that you would need, and this is a strong foundation of your Next.js 15 project using Next.js version 15 and Appwrite as a backend. And you know that I'm already using the context API, Tailwind CSS, and a few other stuff which is provided by Next.js. So I will be creating some more these kinds of project based tutorials from now on. Let me know in the comments below what do you think and what do you know about the other technologies that I need to consider for my next tutorials. Till then, thank you so much for watching, guys. See you in the next video.